The last coin cast into the fountain decides all that came before. Book of Cain. Andrew Ryan's ink stains the lighthouse desk. Booker's hands grip its rusted steps. Voice cracks in as Rapture's Persephone's Fontainino collapse hollow. It was the pen signing his name into the city's blood, into the city's blood. Script, Atlas was no entries in the disguise. It was the pen signing his name into the city's blood. The vault's chill clung to his bones as Fontainino, Atlas scrawled entries in the ledger. Flickering sodium lights cast his shadow like a king's on crumbling walls. Each page turned whispered of labor camps, of atoms siphoned under the guise of salvation. The ink smelled of iron, the air thick with ozone from the refineries beyond. Had seen himself in their hollow eyes, the workers, and wrote their rage into a weapon. Not just a mask, but a mirror. The city's pulse thrummed beneath his boots, a heartbeat head tuned to his dirge. When the first splicers tore through the streets, it was not chaos orchestrated the silence between their screams. Jack's rampage, a crescendo, not a mistake. Fontaine's pen never wavered. The dead do not conduct symphonies unless they've already written the final note. Fontaine's death wasn't the end of his scam. It was the beginning. He built Fontaine Futuristics to bleed Rapture dry. Every atom vial sold was a nail in Ryan's coffin. Every splicer born, a soldier in a war Fontaine had already won. Ryan promised self-sufficiency. Fontaine delivered dependency. Where Ryan's towers gleamed with hubris, Fontaine's factories festered with greed. The plasmid monopoly wasn't a business, it was a weapon. A slow poison seeping through Rapture's veins. Ryan's autarky crumbled not under splicer fists but under Fontaine's gold. The war wasn't fought with guns. It was waged in boardrooms, ledgers, the collapse of trust. When the little sisters whispered harvest they spoke not of Ada but of Fontaine's final harvest, control. Atlas wasn't a man. He was a lever pulled by Fontaine's cold hand even from the grave. Jack's rage, a spark in Fontaine's fire. The boy's vengeance fueled the chaos that drowned Rapture. Fontaine's legacy wasn't in plasmids. It was in the system he broke, the city he turned against itself. He didn't die, he dissolved into the chaos he created. As the ocean swallowed Rapture's dreams, it also swallowed the truth. Andrew Ryan fell not to a man, but to a ghost who had already written the end. Frank Fontaine's death wasn't the end of his scam, it was the beginning. He did not build Fontaine Futuristics to sell plasmids. He built it to bleed Rapture dry. Every vial of atoms sold was a nail in Ryan's coffin. Every splicer born, a soldier in a war Fontaine had already won. Andrew Ryan promised self-sufficiency. Fontaine delivered dependency. Where Ryan's towers gleamed with utopian hubris, Fontaine's factories festered with greed. The plasmid monopoly wasn't a business, it was a weapon. A slow poison seeping through Rapture's veins. Ryan's autarky crumbled not under splicer fists, but under the weight of Fontaine's gold. The war was never fought with guns. It was waged in boardrooms, in ledgers, in the silent collapse of trust. And when the little sisters whispered harvest they spoke not of Ada but of Fontaine's final harvest, control. Atlas was not a man. Atlas was a lever pulled by Fontaine's cold hand even from the grave. Jack's rage, a spark in Fontaine's fire. The boy's vengeance fueled the chaos that drowned Rapture. Fontaine's legacy was never in the plasmids. It was in the system he broke, the city he turned against itself. He did not die, he dissolved into the chaos he created. And as the ocean swallowed Rapture's dreams, it also swallowed the truth. Andrew Ryan fell not to a man, but to a ghost who had already written the end. Fontaine's corpse was a cipher. The bullet that pierced his chest in 1958 did not kill him, it merely carved a new role. Atlas was no mask. It was a puppet strung to the throats of Rapture's working class, a specter that whispered of equality while threading the noose around the city's soul. The workers believed in him, they trusted him. How cruel a joke, a revolution birthed from a lie so polished it became truth. The Civil War was not an accident, it was a ledger entry. Fontaine's hand guided every brick thrown at the elite, every bomb in the dark. He did not need Atlas to inspire chaos, needed chaos to become Atlas. The war was his scalpel, carving Rapture's flesh to expose its rot. Every splicer, every orphaned child with a wrench, every burned palace was a signature on his final contract. Jack was a weapon, yes, but not a pawn. Fontaine's design was precise, a boy raised on vengeance, a killer who would never question his purpose. To breed a storm and call it justice, yet Jack's rage was not the storm's peak, it was only the spark. The true masterpiece unfolded in the ashes. Fontaine's ideology did not die when his heartbeat did, it multiplied. The war was his scripture, the splicers his choir, the ruins his cathedral. He did not want Rapture broken. He wanted it unmade, a testament that objectivism's altar could only be drowned in blood. The betrayal, Atlas was never a man. He was a will to power wearing a borrowed face. Fontaine's ghost did not haunt Rapture, he became it. Every scream the end of rage die, every collapse, signature, every shattered dream was a line in his epitaph. Here lies Frank Fontaine. He sold his soul to burn heaven down. The end of Rapture was not a tragedy, it was a signature. And the ink was Fontaine's blood, still wet, still screaming. The Civil War began on New Year's Eve, 1958. Atlas wasn't a rebellion, was the scalpel. Fontaine's final move, a ghost writing the end of his own masterpiece. Splicers burned, little sisters bled, the truest mark was carved in Rapture's ashes. A name, Atlas, Fontaine's last lie, still burning, still alive. The neon in Rapture's veins flickered, casting blood runes on walls still wet from little sister's tears. Fontaine's ghost hummed in the static ozone and wrought, the stink of 1,000 lies frying in the storm. Jack walked the lighthouse stairs, each tread a scream, his shadow a blade carving Atlas into the dust. The generators groaned like dying things, the air tasted of copper, not victory. A splicer king's throne was built from little sister's shells. Crowds roared, their voices a fever, as Atlas masks slipped revealing the hollow grin beneath. Jack paused, hand on the switch, and wondered if he was dagger or wound. The war had burned too bright, the streets were hot coals underfoot, ash in every breath. Fontaine's masterpiece was a palindrome. The final push began with a girl's whimper and ended with Rapture's heartbeat in Jack's palms. He flipped the switch. The city's throat slit itself in light. The ocean took what was left cold, hungry, silent. Fontaine's name floated up in the bubbles, a name. Occurs the song. The lighthouse's concrete breath was damp, salt-stale, thick with the rot of copper wiring and dreams drowned. Jack's boots echoed in the spiral, each step a hammer on the lie of Atlas' promise. Fontaine's voice hadn't died and the bathyspherate had pooled here, in the machine's belly, coiled around the core like a serpent feeding on its own tail. The door groaned open, light bled out in jagged teeth. Inside, the machine hummed a hymn of hunger. Its circuits pulsed with a sickly amber, casting long shadows that clawed at the walls. The air reeked of ozone and rust, metallic and hot. Jack's fingers brushed a panel, it hissed, spitting static that left his skin numb. He had not come to kill Fontaine. He had come to become him. The machine's heart was a mirror, cracked and bleeding. Fontaine's face stared back, not dead, but alive, carved into the glass by a mind that refused to rot. Jack saw his own reflection there, stitched into the frame, a puppet with new strings. The scam never ended, it only changed hands. The lighthouse trembled, its light now a blade cutting through the ocean's dark. Rapture's towers crumbled in the distance, their glass screams swallowed by waves. Splicers howled, but their throats were raw from singing Fontaine's gospel. Jack's hammer hung heavy, he had not broken the cycle. He had become its new axis. The machine's voice whispered what he already knew. Legacy is a wire that conducts both power and pain. The lighthouse stood, a tomb with no corpse, its beacon now pointing not outward, but inward, a warning, a dirge. Fontaine's ghost had won not by dying, but by becoming the thing had always been. A name, a curse, a song that refused to fade. Fontaine's corpse crumpled, the mask remained. His voice, coiled in steel and spite, never truly left. From the depths, his ghost clung to Atlas' face, a puppet cut from his own greed. Every splicer's howl, every atom refinery's bloom. The city's rot was his final blueprint. He did not need the body to rule. The name Atlas was the hook. The lie that gnawed until the truth bled. Jack's rage was a blade Fontaine tempered. A boy shaped to strike the blow that erased all rivals. When the waters rose, they carried more than ruin. They buried a thief who stole his own epitaph. Rapture's bones still whisper his gambit: power is not taken, it is asterisk left behind asterisk. A mask without a face, a name without a grave. Fontaine's end was the beginning of his reign. The city fell, but his laugh echoes in every shadow that thrives where light once burned. Fontaine's ghost wrote the end of Rapture in blood and betrayal. Atlas was no martyr. He was a cipher, a name carved by Fontaine's dying hand to carry the lie forward. Suchong's conditioning, that coiled wire in the mind, was not his own design. It was a key. A key to bind Rapture's soul to Fontaine's shadow long after his body rotted in the sea. Ideas outlived their makers. Fontaine knew this. He taught Suchong to sculpt loyalty from pain, then let the scientist believe it was his own work. The conditioning pooled in the city's veins, turning splicers into pawns and pawns into ghosts. Even Jack, that shattered boy, was never the scam's heart. He was the scalpel, a tool to sever Rapture from its last tether to truth. What does a thief leave behind? Not gold, not power. A story, Fontaine's story. Atlas, the freedom fighter, became the final performancia mask for the rot to wear in the absence of its creator. Suchong's wires frayed, but the song they played endured. The city drowned, but its death was not an ending, it was an echo. Rapture's ruins hum with the static of Fontaine's last trick, a legacy not of flesh but of faith, faith in the scam. Faith in the mirror, and in that mirror every traitor sees their own face. The mask falls, a face emerges weathered, cruel, triumphant. A whisper cuts through the chaos, asterisk, I am not the villain you think I am. I am the system, asterisk. Atlas was never a hero. He was a ghost in the machine, a liar who coded Rapture's end into its founding. Fontaine's final breath became the first line of his successor's script. Jack's blade didn't kill him, it crowned him. The system he built devoured flesh, spitting out myth. Splicers clawed at shadows. They never saw the hands guiding the light. Every lie Atlas told was a brick in Fontaine's monument. Even death could not erase the architect. His voice, now dust, still echoes in the pipelines, in the static of every radio, in the hollow eyes of those who follow systems. Jack fought a ghost, Fontaine fought forever. Rapture's fall wasn't an accident, it was a signature. The scam never indebted became the city itself. And in the ruins the system breathes, not in flesh, not in blood, in the unbreakable code of belief. What if belief itself was the final scam? Atlas the martyr was no man, only Fontaine's ghost, whispering through rust to ensure his name outlived Rapture. Jack's blade struck not Atlas but a monument. The fall was never about ideals or splicers. It was a requiem written in blood and betrayal. And Fontaine longed